It is kind of a comforting thought to think that at one point in our world history, in 25 languages, all in unison, you could hear people say, that was a terrible call. That's unbelievable.
Hey guys, welcome back to Shifting Gears. My name's Greyson Harris, and I'm joined today by Seth Winton, one of the specialists of professional development here at KCH. Seth, how you doing, man?
And it is a pleasure to be here.
Before I really start to reveal, Seth, what it is that we're getting into, I want to ask you a quick question, okay?
All right.
What would you say is the most watched television broadcast of all time?
This may be my bias here. Finale of Seinfeld.
What's the deal with airplane food?
I don't think that even made the top 20. I got to be
should have,
honest
man.
with you. I don't think it did.
News station shut down for the finale of Seinfeld. Little known fact.
Something called the Apollo moon landing was actually the number one.
Somewhat culturally
Somewhat more
significant.
important, right. But what is most interesting to me about this list is not what's number one, it's what the top 10 looks like. Yeah, you would imagine a moon landing is probably going to be the number one on there, of course. After that, however, numbers 2 through 9, all
Seinfeld
Super
episodes.
Bowls.
Oh, Super Bowls.
There were episodes of MASH, actually. Spots 2 through 9 are completely held by Super Bowls. Every single one of them. And then you get to number 10, Richard Nixon's resignation speech was the 10th most watched broadcast of all time. But Seth, what I want to talk about really is because this is one of the biggest events in the world, not just from a U.S. standpoint, but like I said, just a global standpoint as well. The logistics of something like this has to be one of the most insane things that can possibly go on. You're literally putting on an event for the world every single year. So I kind of wanted to get into really just the overall economic and cultural impact of the Super Bowl, kind of talk about why it is such a big deal, and then get into, well, how does it even get put on? Like, what are some of the behind the scenes things that you and I, when we're watching the game, probably wouldn't have ever thought about in a million years? It's people's jobs to think about how this goes and to put on a perfect show because, well, all eyes are on you, so you better be perfect.
Kind of like right now.
Exactly, yeah, so don't mess up. I want to start with the economic impact of hosting the Super Bowl. Last year's Super Bowl had the largest economic impact of any special event ever held in the state of Arizona, ever, as well as the highest for any Super Bowl for which publicly released figures are available. So this is basically the biggest Super Bowl of all time. Last year was. The Arizona Super Bowl Host Committee, that's a mouthful, try saying that too many times, announced that it generated $1.3 billion in total economic activity or gross output for Arizona, with $726.1 million of that total contribution going straight to their GDP. This is quite clearly one of the best things that you can do as a city, is host a Super Bowl. Not to mention also there were over 10,000 annual jobs that were created because of this, so you're changing people's lives. You're actually creating, you're creating economic opportunity for people.
Where is it this year?
It's going to be in Vegas.
Yeah, they could use it.
There's not enough entertainment there. So they need to make sure they have something in that boring town to keep them all entertained. Researchers were analyzing the data that was collected from last year's Super Bowl, and they found that 102,000 out-of-state visitors came to the Valley for Super Bowl 52, spending over $221 million. That is like well over the population of my hometown.
I mean, that's Neyland Stadium, baby.
That's Neyland Stadium flocking to Arizona. And the funny thing about it, oddly enough, only like 60% of them even had tickets to go to the game.
Just wanted to be around.
They just wanted to be around the party. Exactly. That just to show how much of an event it is. People that aren't even allowed in the building are still like, I want to be there. That sounds fun.
Hey, those dollars spend the same in Arizona.
They sure do. It's a little bit hotter, a little drier, I would say. The money might be more brittle.
That's my number one concern with my money is that it gets too brittle.
How much did it ultimately cost then for one person to attend last year's game, okay? Game tickets, close to $6,000. $5,911 to be precise. Hotel for 3 nights, $1,725. Meals and drinks, $500. That seems low. Round trip airfare, $375. Okay, you flying Spirit?
Yeah,
because that's pretty cheap too.
Especially compared to some of these other numbers.
Well, especially when you look at the car rental, and that's $340. Something tells me the car rental's not going to cost as much as the airplane tickets, or maybe it is. I don't know. I've never rented a car before.
Numbers say it does.
All said and done, though, if you wanted to go to the Super Bowl by yourself, solo trip, yeah, you got a budget close to $9,000 for that. It's $8,726 in total. But the impact of the actual broadcast itself, that's why I started with the top 10 U.S. broadcasts of all time, because the fact that this is broadcast is what makes it such a big deal. The advertising revenue, the amount of people that it reaches, the broadcast broadcast reached approximately 200 million viewers, or 60% of people that lived in the United States. Again, we're referring to last year's Super Bowl, which was, by the way, the most watched Super Bowl of all time. But it's also broadcast to 190 countries in 25 plus languages.
It is kind of a comforting thought to think that at one point in our world history, in 25 languages, all in unison, you could hear people say, that was a terrible call. That's unbelievable.
I feel bad for whoever has to dub Patrick Mahomes' voice in like German or French or whatever. It's got to be the scratchiest.
Oh, yeah.
It's just German Kermit.
But we started in the huddle and then getting on at the line of scrimmage.
So the cool thing about the Super Bowl is that they do a rotation of who is going to be doing the broadcasting. For last year, it was Fox. The CBS can be in the rotation. NBC can be in the rotation. There were over 6,000 media members that were at the game, including over 900 just from Fox. And something that I thought was really cool about how they prepare for the actual game is that they will bring in some local high school football teams. And they will have them play like a mock Super Bowl. Like it's basically, it's like a 7-on-7 kind of situation. They even have them running out with the tunnels. They test out all the pyrotechnics. They have all the graphics running. So like what they'll do is they'll say, okay, quarterback of this team, you're going to be mimicking Jalen Hurts or whatever. So they practice it with high school kids, which I thought was really cool. I didn't know that they had done that. And the reason they practice it, obviously, they want to make sure that they get it all right. There's a whole bunch of people watching it, obviously. But when people were asked why they watched the Super Bowl, some of the answers here were pretty interesting to me. Most of them were strictly there for the game, as you would imagine, close to 64% of them. The second most amount of people that watched it, though, were there because they were wanting to watch the commercials. 39% of them. 39% of people were there for the commercials. 35% of them are there for the halftime show. 26% of them just were there for the social aspect. They just want to be around a party. Just want to be around a party. 13% of them had FOMO. Just fear of missing out was an actual answer. They were like, I can't not watch the Super Bowl. I have to be a part of it. I have to know what happened. I have to be part of this cultural phenomenon.
Who's going to be their situation?
So, yeah, obviously the commercials are very popular. It's always been a thing for a while that, Super Bowl commercials are a big deal. Advertisers pay a lot of money for them. As a matter of fact, last year, advertisers paid an average of $7 million to air a 30-second long commercial.
Holy
$7 million for 30 seconds.
Is it worth it? That's the question.
That's what I wanted to ask myself as well. Like, do advertisements, especially ones of this grandiose nature, do they actually work? Turns out, yeah, they actually kind of do.
Well, there you go.
A study from behavioral research company Valence, they determined, whether or not the commercials actually had any sort of boost to consumer demand, and it showed that Super Bowl advertising fueled a 6.4% increase in demand among viewers. But yes, they actually, they do have an impact that actually does do more than just entertainment. However, they are considered entertainment for some people. A 2020 survey revealed that 79% of viewers see the commercials as entertainment. They don't feel as though they're being advertised to. They feel like they're being entertained. Advertisers' dream to have a captive audience that views your ads as entertaining. Yeah, that's got to be the best place you can possibly be. But it doesn't stop at just the game, too. And this is where the changing of technology kind of changes the way people consume things. During the 2019 Super Bowl, for example, consumers spent 641,000 hours watching Super Bowl ads on YouTube, like after it happened. So it does have some staying power, too, which I think lends itself to why they may do well from an advertising standpoint, is that people are looking for them afterwards. I mean, how many times do you look for a commercial?
Yeah,
Not very often. Yeah, exactly. You usually look to stay away from them.
Now I know what I'm going to do with my extra $7 million I had laying around.
People are advertising. They're trying to make sure that they get to all the TVs in the homes, all the Super Bowl parties, and all the bars and everything else. What's going on at those Super Bowl parties? What's going on at those bars? A lot of people are eating and a lot of people are drinking. That's what's happening. I guarantee that. Something that I found out, and you and I were talking about this earlier, that we were both kind of shocked by it, is that the Super Bowl is the second biggest eating day of the year, besides Thanksgiving.
I never would have guessed that.
So some stats reported on 2022's game revealed that America's favorite Super Bowl snacks included 1.45 billion chicken wings, billion with a B, 11.2 million pounds of potato chips, about 140 million pounds of avocados, 3.8 million pounds of popcorn. You know how much popcorn that is for it to be 3.8 million pounds of it? Because popcorn is very light. 325.5 million gallons of beer.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, that's a Thursday for me. 12.5 million pounds of bacon. 88 million pounds of cheese.
Now, I will say, when I got this list that you printed out for me, which was very nice, I was not sure if this was a Joey Chestnut eating contest result or not.
This is his
Good to
daily
know.
training regimen. You know, like the 10,000 hours to become a whatever. It's 10,000 hot dogs. It's how you become Joey Chestnut. But how are the venues chosen? We kind of brought this up earlier, and here we go now. How do we decide that, for example, it's going to be in Vegas this year? How did we decide that it was going to be in Arizona last year? It used to be a bidding system, which was obviously very competitive, but the NFL has since made it, well, a little bit more egocentric, I'll say, because the NFL basically said any city that we want to go to should feel entitled and blessed that we picked them. So how about we decide, and if we pick you, then you have to present to us a plan on how you're going to do this.
Sure.
So, hey, Vegas, you're lucky to have us. Please provide us a plan for how you're going to make this happen. And it's a 2 or 3 year long process of making a plan, as you would imagine. It's just short of planning for an Olympics. The host stadium must be in a market that hosts an NFL team and must have a minimum of 70,000 seats. There must also be a minimum number of hotel spaces within 1 hour's drive of the stadium, equaling 35% of the stadium's capacity. And that's not even including the hotels for the teams, officials, medias, and then, as they put it, dignitaries. As if this is like an ambassador's meeting of some kind. The host city must also have space for something called the NFL Experience. The NFL Experience is essentially an interactive football theme park, which already I'm hooked. I'm in on that. It's operated a week prior to the actual game. The indoor venue for the event must have a minimum of 850,000 square feet. Huge, very big. Outdoor venue must have a minimum of 1 million square feet. So yeah, even bigger. So you must have a whole lot of space outside of your stadium to host this theme park, not even including all the media centers. There must also be, and this makes sense, but there must also be practice space of equal and comparable quality for both teams within a 20-minute drive. I couldn't find a whole lot of information on how exactly the teams factor into this, like what their choices are, because it kind of seems like they're just along for the ride as well. Like the more I got into it, the more it just kind of seems like they're showing up for what is essentially a week-long game. Like they're there for a week. You know, they got to do their whole media availability days and things of that nature. And that's a whole other process. It's just setting up media days. Like, you know, just having all these different booths, like it's a science fair where you just go from player to player. One of the more interesting logistical problems of the game itself is how you get the field there, because they don't play on the field that's already there. They bring in their own special field for this. Yeah. The field itself, it's sod, and it's usually grown about 2 years in advance of the game, or at least it was sod last year. I'm assuming it's probably I think it should be sod for every, you know what I mean, unless they just happen to have a natural grass stadium already, but most of these stadiums are domed. This is a unique event in that it's held in the middle of winter. Well, it's a 1-game championship scenario. It's not like a 7-game series where it's like, oh, there's one game where weather did a thing. No, this is it. This is the one game you got. So more often than not, when they're picking the cities, they would prefer for them to have a dome, all things considered, unless you're like in Miami, for example, where the weather is very much predictable. Or Arizona, but even they have a dome. You know, usually, by the way, it's grown in like Alabama or Georgia or California, but last year's was actually grown locally just outside of Phoenix. It's 100,000 square feet of sod, by the way. It takes about 30 trucks, refrigerated trucks, to transport it all.
Reefers in the biz.
Reefers with transporting grass. I report, you decide. What was interesting about it, though, is that they moved the field on like little trays, essentially, in and out of the stadium as the week goes on, so they can spend some time outside to get light and whatever it's got to do, and then they just roll it right back into the stadium. It's a really cool thing.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it's a really cool video to look at.
Which is smart, because ideally, if you have the two best teams, what you want to avoid is having a playing surface in which the team that basically set a record in sacks slips so much they get no sacks.
Yeah,
on
I was
Patrick
wondering
Mahomes.
if you're going to bring this up. Yeah, the playing surface itself, even though I just went over like how much they care about it, it kind of wasn't great last year. I think that was part of the talking points is that the grass kind of sucked. Other than the commercials and other than the game, the biggest part of the Super Bowl is the halftime performance as well. It's something that everybody looks forward to, something that if you don't care about the game, at least you got something to look forward to. You got Usher. I mean, come on. I mean,
Usher, baby.
That's not a horrible consolation prize if you don't really care about football. You get to watch Usher. So the logistics of the halftime show, this is an interesting one because it obviously is going to vary from show to show depending on the artist, the setup, the stadium, whatever the case may be. This is probably the one that has the least amount of just like standardized information on it because, like I said, it does very much vary.
Are you running through mirrors like The Weeknd, or are you suspended above air like
Exactly,
Rihanna?
exactly. And speaking of The Weeknd, he actually had to put forth $7 million of his own money towards this production.
Really?
Because the NFL, they don't pay halftime performers at all.
I did not know that.
Not a dime. No. You are expected to sort of take it as a privilege that you are getting this much exposure. And which is true. I mean, you get a lot of exposure for this, obviously.
So you're talking about Destiny's Child. You're talking about Eminem, Dr. Dre, all that, Snoop Dogg. They don't need promotion.
And neither does the NFL. That's why they're not paying them. I get why the NFL doesn't feel a need to pay them because there is not a single name in entertainment. And I'm going to throw Taylor Swift in there as well. And she's probably the closest one. The NFL is bigger than anything in the United States. I mean, again, as I read at the top of the show that, 8 of the top 10 most watched broadcasts in the U.S. is Super Bowls. And if you take it out to the top 50, it's like 30 or 40 of them are all Super Bowls. Every single year, top 10 shows of the year, top 10 broadcasts, they're NFL games. Every single one of them, except for like 1 or 2. I get why they don't pay him, and I also understand from a artist perspective why you would jump on the opportunity. With The Weeknd, he spent $7 million of his own money. After his performance, The Weeknd's music sales soared by 385%. Worth it. Yeah, the kind of exposure that you get. Dr. Dre did something very similar the year before. He spent a lot of his own money to get this put on. Snoop Dogg and Mary J. Blige that performed in that show, they both released albums like days before their performance, and Snoop Dogg's album saw a 143% increase in sales, and Mary J. Blige's saw an increase of 132%. From an artist perspective, it's for them an opportunity to showcase themselves in front of the entire country in a way that not very many of them get the opportunity to do. So, although it may seem like, wow, you don't pay the performers, you pay them an exposure. Like that's how that goes. You get paid long term. But the production of it is insane. Like, for an example, if you have a concert tour, the crew might have a couple days to set up the stage and make sure everything's right. These crews have 6 minutes.
That's a great point.
6 minutes to set it up and take it down. Now, obviously, they have days to do rehearsals and stuff beforehand. But on the day of the game, you've got 6 minutes to take it up, 6 minutes to take it down, and the actual performance is about 13 to 15 minutes. That's all you got.
That's
13
wild.
to 15 minutes. Yep.
I didn't even think about usually we're watching those aforementioned commercials while they're setting up, so I didn't even think about it.
That's how much work it takes, though, for it to go to commercials and then come back, and then next thing you know, Rihanna's on the ceiling. But while they're setting it up, by the way, in this very short span of time, for example, one of my favorite halftime shows, Shakira and J-Lo, required 38 separate carts, and these carts are big. They require 12 people each to move. There's another 18 carts with 6-member teams. So there's another 18 smaller carts that still take 6 people to move. Production itself can take anywhere between 2,000 and 3,000 people to produce over the course of however many days it may be.
If you're in the stadium, that's gotta look like when you knock over an anthill and watch them
and they all
put it back
scurry.
together.
Yeah, and they're... I like the way you think, man. What's even more interesting about it, you ever seen those performances where it looks like they have like an audience on the field? First of all, they're all fake. They're not... Well, they're real people, but they're not. What? They're all AI, dude. It's gotten crazy. They're all extras in a movie. Essentially, they're pretty much paid to be there, and you can have as many as close to 1,000 people on the field that are essentially.
How do you get that gig? Do they get to watch the game?
Probably not. No, there's no way. With how expensive the tickets are, they probably just shove them into a coat closet somewhere. You come out when Shakira wants you to come out.
How much do you think Katy Perry paid the shark guy?
Not enough. That's really just sort of a general overview of just kind of giving everybody the idea of, yeah, this is probably the biggest event in the world, but I don't think a lot of people sit back and really think about what it takes to put on an event of this size. You've got tens of thousands of people working 12 to 15 hours a day, setting up something that is only going to be on TV for 4 hours max, if that.
In all reality, how cool would it be to be a truck driver and you get that call and you're like, I get to move a section of the field that's going to be in the Super Bowl.
Dude, I get to move part of Usher's stage.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
Like, all things considered, I'd be pretty honored if I was watching.
Yeah.
I wouldn't shut up about it. If I was at a Super Bowl party, I said, that section of grass.
Yeah. That's all me, baby.
It's all me.
That's all me. I spit in that grass right there.
Right.
Seth, we're going to close this out with, we're going to have a little bit of fun here.
Ooh,
I've
been having fun this whole time.
No, we're just now going to have fun. We
Right.
should have been taking this seriously. We mentioned earlier how much food is consumed during the Super Bowl. It's the second busiest eating day of the year. So I wanted to put together a little game for us.
All right.
We're going to draft Super Bowl foods.
Ooh, okay.
Foods that we want to see at our Super Bowl party, starting from our first pick all the way to our fifth, going in alternate order, obviously.
Of course.
Seth, you're the guest here. We're going to give you your number one draft pick for Super Bowl Sunday foods.
So this might surprise you, but I am not much of a snackman myself.
Snackman.
Right. I tend to be kind of centered around my meals. When I'm watching the Super Bowl, I am locked into the game. That said, if you put, and this might not be everyone's number one pick, but if you put chips and salsa in front of me, I'm not stopping until it's gone or taken away from me. So I'm going to go chips and salsa as my number one.
I think that's a solid pick right there. I think that's a safe pick. I think everybody can enjoy it.
Safe pick. Let's not insult me.
I think I'm good with
Go
that. I'm
Balls.
going to draft Tom Brady. I'm going to take chicken wings with my number one pick.
And I'm the safe pick. Come on.
Kinda
I will
hard to
say
eat.
you might lose some people because you've got sauce all over your hands. You're doing these bone-in wings at the Super Bowl.
Well, I make sure that between each bite, I go and shake everyone's hand, just to let them know that I'm
very
glad
courteous
that
of
they're
you.
here. I'm grateful you spent some time to come to my party. I want to shake your hand, sir. Here's some barbecue.
All right. I'm going to take, with my second pick, another dippable option. I'm going to go mozzarella sticks.
Ooh,
I love a good
some
fried
mozzie
cheese.
sticks.
Some mozzies.
I'm with you. I think that's a solid pick for you, man.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, he'll be a hard worker for you.
Yeah.
Good locker room guy.
Oh, for sure.
All right, with my second pick, I'm gonna take pigs in a blanket.
Pig. Oh, that is a good choice.
I'm a big fan
Dang,
of
that's
bread. I'm a
good.
big fan of I'm a big fan of meat. What's your third pick, Seth?
Yeah. You got to choose your words carefully there. Wow, that distracted me. All right, let's go. Third pick. I'm going to branch out. This was on nobody's board.
Okay.
This is a kind of family original. And up until this point, haven't really had it at my Super Bowls. But I've been making it a lot this year, and it's going to make an appearance on my Super Bowl plate. And that is browned sausage with Cheese Whiz put on a piece of bread and baked in the oven.
It's kind of Rotel dip.
Well, then call it Rotel dip, whatever you want to call it. I'm telling you,
That's like trailer
I'm telling
park Rotel dip.
trailer part. No, this is like Michelin star Rotel dip.
Cheese whiz?
Cheese
Efficiency,
whiz,
baby.
Trust me. I mean, that's what Philly puts on their cheesesteaks. Mix it together. So a little Worcestershire sauce, however you say that. Put it on some rye bread. Bake that bad boy. And you're telling me that's trailer park?
Number 3, Skyline Chili. No. All right, with my third pick, I'm gonna take. This is gonna be my first dip pick of the draft. I'm gonna be taking buffalo chicken dip. I feel like that's a pretty safe pick. Now I am taking the risk of drafting 2 chicken-based items on my team. There might be some
poultry
chemistry issues there, some ball hogging. First of all, I have 3 proteins already, so I want to know I have a very meaty squad, very strong squad.
I said, are you strong? They said, I'm strong if you strong. And I said, we strong then.
You're built for the offensive line. All right.
Probably add some carbs at some point or another.
I'm going to take a special teams player here. It's not going to be in your hearty category. It's not really going to be a savory. I'm going to go with a sweet, and I'm going to say brownies. If I'm picturing my plate, there's a brownie on that plate.
That does inspire me, though. I'm going to go ahead and take with my fourth pick. Man, the good old chocolate chip cookie.
Yeah, that's a
Good old chocolate chip cookie. I honestly, if we ever had a joint practice, the brownies and cookies would get along. There might be some tampering involved. However, I do think that's a good pick. So yes, I'll be taking chocolate chips with my fourth pick. How you gonna be finishing out your team, man?
All right, again, maybe you wouldn't call it a Super Bowl snack. Maybe not even call it a snack. But if we're rounding out and building a full team, a full experience here, I've got my savory with my trailer park Rotel dip. I've got my sweet. I've got my glue guy, my safe pick. I'm gonna take Dr. Pepper. I'm gonna put a beverage on there, and I'm going with Dr. Pepper.
I'm gonna do all right. So with my 5th pick, man, just classic Coca-Cola, man. I guess if you're taking Dr. Pepper, I should take the next best thing, or possibly the better thing, depending on what side you're on.
I mean, this is 2 rounds in a row where I set the precedent, and then you took the backup.
After I called you safe with your first pick, I just copy everything you do. I like to think of it more as an inspiration. Yeah. With my starting 5, got the chicken wings, I got the buffalo dip, I got the pigs in the blanket, I got chocolate chip cookies, and Coca-Cola.
That is not bad.
But-
I went with chips and salsa, mozzarella sticks, a Michelin star version of Rotel, brownies, and Dr. Pepper.
We actually have one more game to play to kind
let's
of close
go.
this out here.
All right.
One of our producers here, Grace, she searched up some of her favorite Super Bowl commercials of all time that she could find. And she's going to show some of those to us. And what we have to do is guess what year it came out.
You and me for my Big Mac?
First one to miss watches the winner eat. Nothing but net.
Dude, MJ's
I
outfit
think we're
is
gonna
so
be here
fine.
a
That's
while.
what he wore at the Barcelona
Just watch
Olympics.
as the winner eat lunch. Got it.
Off the glass.
Off the floor, nothing but net. Through the window, off the wall, nothing but net.
Man, I'm going to say 1992. I'm going to go 1992 with this.
Ooh, okay.
I'm saying, here's my logic behind it. He's wearing the same outfit that he wore during the Barcelona Olympics. I remember it's because that fit is so fire. That's where I'm going to go with 92.
I'm going to go 89.
I said 91.
Grayson was the closest. It was the year 1993.
1993. That was all right.
Should
Okay,
have gone recent. Very
that's a
nice.
good start right there. Good job, Grace. What,
Nice.
You got a second one coming up for us?
Speaking
of
this
old.
is Snickers.
Yeah, sure is.
Mike, come on! Mike, what is your deal, man? Oh, come on, man. You've been riding me all day. Mike, you're playing like Betty White out there. That's not what your girlfriend said.
Baby.
You
Don't start saying that.
Better?
Better. That hurt.
You're not you when you're hungry. Snickers satisfied.
That feels like one of the first, like, you're not you when you're hungry commercials. At least that I remember. Betty White. Well, she was still alive, obviously.
Yes, she was.
She sure was. I'm going to say 2012. I'm going to go 2012 on that one.
I'm going 2016.
Oh, wait.
Oh, wait.
All right. Good. No one asked you. I'm just playing.
2010.
2010.
Yeah.
I was closest.
I am terrible.
Now,
at
we were
this
both
game.
the same. 2008,
not good at
2012.
this.
2 years.
I know.
Yeah. 2 years.
Hello, ladies. Look at your man. Now back to me. Now back at your man. Now back to me. Sadly, he isn't me. But if he stopped using lady-scented body wash and switched to Old Spice, he could smell like he's me. Look down. Back up. Where are you? You're on a boat with the man your man could smell like.
I want to see the
What's
behind the
your
scenes
hand?
on
Back at
this.
me. I have. It's an oyster with 2 tickets to that thing you love. Look again. The tickets are now diamond. Anything is possible when your man smells like Old Spice and not a lady. I'm on a horse.
I'm on a horse. Dude, that's going to kill me, dude. That commercial ran for like 2 years straight after the Super Bowl. Like, it just kept going because they knew it was a good commercial. I remember that I'm on a horse thing being a bit of an inside joke meme for a while. That's dangerously close to 2010 as well, I feel like.
Yeah.
I'm going to go a little bit earlier. I'm going to say 2009. I'm going to go 2009 on this one.
I don't want to try to be Price is Right guy, but in my heart, since the beginning of this commercial, I had 08.
You should have followed your gut.
What do you mean?
2010.
Oh my
You were
gosh.
so close. You
I
said it. and
Yeah,
then
I know. I wanted to say it again, and then I just didn't. I was like, I'll take a year off. That's a pretty good way to end the episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed and at least learned a little bit of what goes on behind the scenes of the world's biggest sporting event, the world's biggest broadcasted event, other than Seinfeld finale, apparently. Seth, want to say thank you for coming on, sir. Hopefully
man.
we can do something similar in the future. To everybody out there who wants to learn more about what we do as a company at KCH, check out our description down there. We got the website, social media, newsletter, pretty much all the stuff you could ever want. It's down there. If you have any ideas for future episodes, leave those in the comments. Otherwise, thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you next time. See ya. Wee!